Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Galactic Ambition, a Star Wars Unlimited podcast, part of the Maindeck podcast family. I'm Dan.
And I'm Jason, and would you believe it? We actually were at the sector qualifiers. Never, we judged, we worked it.
We worked it.
We worked it.
We were there.
And it was cold. I know I like to talk about weather, but let me tell you, I got really sick after that. Holy moly.
Yeah, so you, Jason, you're from Florida, and you were not used to weather like Colorado has, huh?
Yeah, it was 94. It was a record high for April of all time in Florida. 94 degrees where I live. And then I'm packing for the morning. I'm like, I should bring a sweater. I don't know. I didn't.
That was a good idea.
It was a really good idea because it was, 27 and snowing. Yeah, but that, yeah. So word of advice, if you're one of these, tropical humans like myself, it doesn't matter what time of the year it is. I thought it was all over, but apparently it was not. And holy moly, that was an experience that I could just never deal with again. Like that Jason, extreme.
Yeah,
was bad.
That's just how it is sometimes in this the Midwest neck of the woods.
Holy moly, that was just nuts. That was like the weather whiplash.
But Jason, you went to the Denver sector. I went to the Denver Sector Qualifier as well, and your main takeaway was, dang, it was cold.
It was cold. Yeah, we could just stop here. Right.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Guys. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's such an overplayed joke ending the podcast early.
Yeah. But no, it is a takeaway. Obviously not the major takeaway, but yeah, we went and did that and then came back ready to record. And instead my body shut down. I was so sick this week. Oh my gosh. I was feeling it like Sunday on the way back a little bit. I'm like, man, I don't feel right. And then when I slept on the flight home, that's when I knew something was wrong. Cause I get really bad motion sickness. So like, the minute I woke up and the flight was over, like there's a problem here. There's something going on. And now I'm back and I'm good and I'm happy to be home and I'm happy to share our experiences with you guys. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, which is why we are recording this and posting it a week later than we meant to, but it still has been so long. We can talk about this too. We did record another episode of
Galactic Ambition. We did.
In the interim, and I did not post it. And I chose not to post it because we had just we screwed up some card effects.
It was sloppy.
It was sloppy. It was a sloppy episode. Also, I wasn't satisfied.
You're not missing much because you guys watched it all happen with Django. We talked about Django and it all happened in front of everybody's eyes instead. Before it would have been topical because it would have been before Denver. But it's not that what everybody already didn't know was going to happen. And surprise. It did.
Yeah, it was kind of probably ultimately not a super interesting episode, just about how indirect damage worked and how Django and TDR were kind of a little bit of a problem.
Well, were.
Were.
Yeah, that's the big shakeup. The were being the operative word.
Well, let's mention that. I mean, I think everybody, if you're watching this, by the way, I was surprised at the number of people that came up to us at Denver and were saying, "Hey, like your content and stuff." That's cool because I'm never sure how many people end up listening to Galactic Ambition because there's so many Star Wars Unlimited content creators out there who are doing incredible work, consistent work, and we're out here recording an episode every couple of months.
Yeah, once or twice a year.
So just shout out to everyone. Thank you so much.
We got a lot of very kind words, and it was really nice to meet those of you that walked up and spoke to me and Dan. It was really cool. So thank you so much. That was really kind.
Yeah, that was awesome. But we recorded that episode. I forgot. I had a train of thought and I totally lost it. I derailed myself.
Yeah, you derailed yourself. But no, we were going to talk about what Django and TDR.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. Right. It was just that
living under a rock.
In case you do live under a rock, was that Django, the leader Django and Triple Dark Raid were banned suspended. I should say suspended, as well as surprise to some, but not really. Ultimately, it shouldn't really be a surprise. Was DJ was also suspended because the truth is, if only Django and TDR got banned, then all you would see is Mono Yellow Han stealing everyone's DJ in Han gives control decks no opportunity to get to the late game. He doesn't allow the opponent to get to the late game.
Yeah, and it was preemptive because seeing how the meta would shake down with Django and TDR going away, it's very obvious as a direction it would have headed in, and it was cutting the head off the snake before it became a problem. So I am definitely okay with it. I don't think anyone was really surprised. It was a surprising thing that it happened along with that, but I mean, it's very obvious that would have had to, or like you said, it would have been a lot of mono yellow on, and it basically that deck kind of just destroys an entire archetype. Like, so like you can't have that be a thing. It's not healthy metagaming. So it was really good to see that. So yeah, that all happened, but it didn't happen before our trip.
No, and thus at the sector, there was a very, very remarkable Django Fett conversion into the day 2, and then an almost perfect conversion of day 2 to top 8 of Django as well. So 75% Django.
But good on them for handling that and taking care of that. Django, you will be missed. Triple Dark Raid, I'm not so sure about. I won't be missing it. But it's only a suspension. Who knows where time will take us.
Yeah. We talked about in the what is now the Lost episode. Actually, I said I was going to throw that on Patreon. I think I still will do that. Why not? Just pop it up there. So if you do want to catch, I guess, the Lost episode of Galactic Ambition, that'll be on the Patreon, which you can it's like $2 a month if you want to get access to all the content. So there you go. Or whatever you want to do, but we'll throw that on there. But we just talk about basically that Django was pretty crazy, but TDR was the thing we were really, really concerned about.
Yeah.
That it scaled, it scaled way too more. Wait. What am I trying to say? Way too more. It got too powerful with set 4 because they didn't, I guess this is kind of interesting. Like they didn't predict the power of the ships they were putting in the ship set. But when you think about it, hold on though, it sounds really bad. When you think about it though, we've talked about this before, Jason, how it feels like sets 1 through 3 were sort of developed at a kind of the same time, as separate parts of things. It doesn't feel like there's a really like a clear, like sort of power movement or sort of a learning from the previous sets within the first block of 3 sets. And I still really think like the majority of everything was kind of like lined up there. So it makes sense when you consider that TDR could have actually been designed a long time ago, like 2-3 years ago or something, right? Based on the timeline of creating Star Wars Unlimited. And with that in mind, it was like, okay, like I can see how then, you maybe didn't even have an understanding of what was coming in Jump to Lightspeed. But when it came, it hit hard. And Devastator was just, sorry, not Devastator. Devastator was the problem. Triple Dark was just going to get worse and worse over time. Yeah.
It's just, again, it's not healthy metagame scaling. Like it went from a curve to a straight line up. And cards should not do that. Cards, and typically when cards do that, there's a underlying problem, and the underlying problem is that it just did too much for what cards like that probably should do. The rate of return was just way too big. So really cool card, really awesome design space. Just probably it flew a little too close to the sun.
It sure did.
Yeah,
it was too close to the black sun. Maybe for a little like deep cut Star Wars reference that I don't know if Jason even knows.
No, I'm just gonna go. Oh, cool!
Nailed it.
You did it so good. All right,
let's talk about the sectors though, because as you alluded to at the start here, you and I had an incredible opportunity from Star City Games. Both of us were selected to take the role of level 1 judges at the event on sort of the floor judge and support judge staff. Yeah. I don't know. Let you start with it. Talk about that.
We could talk about, but we could also talk about how people could support us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we should do that first before we get into our long-winded. You know how we get.
I know how we get. Yeah, we're going to just, we've been shaking it up in all the podcasts here. Yeah. I'm going to quick tell you, there's, of course, if you want to support us, if you enjoy Galactic Ambition, the usual stuff you can do. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If you're on a podcast platform, give us one of them juicy little 5-star reviews. Would really appreciate that. Let us know what you think there. And then if you want to support Galactic Ambition in more of a financial sense, what I'm telling people right now is the best way you can do that is go to our LGS, which sponsors us, jwwcards.com. And you can order, we actually literally today, as of recording, I just saw that. I just put up the Legends of the Force pre-orders. I believe we have some pretty good prices on stuff. And there's a discount code Maindeck that you can use for 5% off of the prices we have listed there as well. So grab your pre-orders for Legends of the Force there. And also check out some of the cool stuff we have on that website. We have collab items, Maindeck merchandise that you can pick up there. We have a wallet. Oh, actually, I have it right here.
Get the wallet out. I still got to order mine.
We have a cool Tyvek wallet here with some Maindeck and JWW artwork, which if you're on the YouTube video, you can see that being pictured there. And there's actually in here, I have a spoiler card. We have.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Yep. You're all clear, kid. Hiding in the wallet here, too. And then we also put up some new Maindeck Dragon Shield pre-orders as well, which you can totally check out there. So lots of cool stuff on jwcards.com. Go check it out if you want to support the channel, pick up some cool stuff, support our LGS. It's sort of it's a win-win-win scenario for everybody. Yeah. So thank you all for your support. Jason. This is your time now, but I thought you were going to lead in.
No, this is my time.
Just vibing. It's your time.
It's my time.
Let's talk about judging.
Our experience. So yeah, like you said, we were selected to be a part of the event run by Star City Games. They are doing both the sectional events. Every time I say sectional, I feel like I was making fun of that. I was making fun of that. I was like, why are people calling it sectionals? That's a piece of furniture. But they're hosting both sector events in the U.S. So we were selected to be a part of the first one in Denver, which was really cool. Obviously, as we mentioned before, Dan and I are both level 1 judges. So that was really nice to finally get in there outside the local scene and really just to be a part of what was, one of the largest scale events we've had. So Dan and I were both selected and we both were on. So the way Star City did, which before I get into that, hats off to them. It was very streamlined, extremely communication. Everything was great. The onboarding, I know it's kind of boring, but boring for people. The onboarding, the selection process, the communication down to the end of the event was great. Dan and I have been a part of many event staffs for many games over many years. And for me, it was one of the easiest processes. We knew what we were supposed to be doing. Very clear communication, and it was very well staffed. That was another thing. It was extremely well staffed, which was nice.
Oh yeah, we had plenty of hands in the kitchen to work with, but I agree totally. I was really impressed with the way Star City Games handled the staffing of the event, handled the judges, compensated judges super well. Gave everybody, plenty of information, everything you need. And the way that one thing I really like is the way they broke the judges into teams.
Yeah.
With team leads that really, it helped make it so the head judge, she was able to kind of do her thing, take care of everything. It wasn't like constantly fielding questions from all the judges, because all the lower end judges like us, are sort of like first timers with Star City or whatever. There were a bunch of people, that I talked to were in that position. We all got to go to kind of like our team lead and figure anything out, ask any questions we have there, who would then be able to reach out to the head judge or any of the red shirt staff if they needed to. And it all just it was a good hierarchy. It worked really well. It felt really smooth. And honestly, people kept coming up to me like, man, it's been a long day, hon. I'm like, I don't know. It flew by for me.
Really flew by. It was really structured to a point to where it did fly by. And I think a big part of that too is there was not much downtime in between rounds. It was really, I think the longest round time we had was the last round we judged, which was round 8. Between 7 and 8 was the longest time. And it's really because as the day went on, which we'll get into, there's obviously more and more time extensions and things popping up as deck checks and stuff went on. But as Dan alluded to, we were on teams. We all had our own little teams. I know Dan was a part of the floor judge team and I was part of the pairings team. So when the round started, it was just get to the printer, get to the papers up, make sure everybody knew where they were going. Which was nice. It was nice to have a role, know what I was expected to do. And then obviously in between all that, we were on the floor and we were just kind of seeing what was going on, making sure that, everything was above water. One of the big things I wanted to mention that they wanted us to look out for were sleeves. And it's something that it's actually if we weren't going to do the other thing we were going to do with the question we had later, I was going to as a side, a whole sidebar, by the way, if you go to a Star Wars Unlimited sanctioned event, you need to have opaque sleeves.
Yeah, that's an important thing for sure, though, to mention.
And it was one of those things that was expressed to us that we need to check that. To varying degrees of player reception. There's a good. Thank you. I was hunting for that for a minute. Some people took it very well. We were not instructed, and nor did we give any penalties for this. By the way, if you heard anything like that, there was no penalties given for that. It was just a gentle reminder to change them in between rounds. Any tournament veterans should know that that is a thing for most card games. However, to Star Wars Unlimited credit, there are a lot of brand new players to the TCG world. And this was one of their first large scale events. One person I at least talked to about that was like, this is my first large event. I had no idea. And again, it wasn't a big deal. To some it was, but it's okay. It all got handled. A big thing was to make sure that people were using opaque sleeves and appropriate playmats. If you go to these events, leave your non-family friendly-esque playmats at home.
Yes.
Because that is also a bit of a thing.
That feels like it should be a little more obvious.
Feels like something that you should have to say, however. However,
yes.
And especially for those who used the marketplace the other day, someone posted some cards on a very interesting playmat. And I was like, okay, so these are things even in this fandom.
I didn't see that.
Oh, I'll send that to you. I thought I did. I was like, people like this exist. And good for you. And, it takes all walks of life. But yeah, make sure you go with appropriate materials. And Star Wars asked for opaque sleeves, which means you can't see through them. And another thing which didn't get enforced, which I actually was going to run by you, was the translucent dice.
Oh, yeah. We did talk about that at the end of the event. There's like a nice little judge meeting at the end where that was kind of mentioned. That was not something that I had like explicit instruction to look out for either. But that's something that people should be aware of as well, because it is in the policy documents for Star Wars Unlimited. But you do, when you're rolling dice for any purpose, including to see who goes first or whatever, your dice cannot be opaque. And there's the reason why I think it wasn't being enforced was because the messaging on this was it's just in the document, but it's not like they had over 400 people there. And I would guess that probably, I don't remember the final tally. I'm just going to say it was 450, but it was somewhere around 420 or something. I don't know, whatever. But if there were 450 there, I would guess that 445 people did not know about this, right? Sure. And like 5 people did or something. So we were not on the lookout for it, but going forward, I'm sure at some point, either if the policy doesn't change, you are going to be needing to have translucent dice to roll. And the purpose of that is because opaque dice can hide imperfections, intentional or otherwise. Sure. That could cause the dice to roll in a way that is not perfectly fair. And they're trying to avoid that. Yeah.
And other games do have that in their policies. So I wasn't surprised, but it was also something that, again, I knew of it, but I didn't remember it until we talked about it. And I was like, oh, that is a thing in this game. But that makes sense. But I would say majority of the people watched did not have that, nor would have likely been aware of that. And especially with this game, how everyone has custom everything. Everyone's got a custom token and they have a custom base tracker.
Yep.
And I saw so many unique base trackers. I don't know if you saw the one where the guy had the 30 hit points and had a lightsaber he moved.
No, I didn't see
it. It was sweet. For me, I was like, this is so cool. I'm like, that is so tedious, but it was really sweet. But I guess it was easy when it moved in like chunks of like 11 because War Juggernaut, but in a game and a fandom where people like honestly have embraced the custom tokens, the custom everything, custom deck boxes, 3D print everything. I saw 3D printed initiative tokens. I saw 3D printed whatever you needed. So it kind of goes to a point that like people are gonna go and get dice from a retailer that maybe look cool and they're maybe themed, but understand that the policy does ask for translucent dice. So it's just something to kind of be aware of.
On the topic of like custom everything, can I just get on this? Can I have a soapbox for a little bit? Can I grab one and just
take it?
Okay. I love all of these Etsy sellers who are like creating their own like super cool 3D printing stuff, or we have like the the laser etched like stuff. There's so many cool sellers making really cool things that are very Star Warsy and support the game and support the players. I love that. However, I have seen too many of these of sellers that are doing what I think is a very, very unfair thing to the producers of the game, to FFG, but to artists as well, which is taking the artwork from Star Wars Unlimited and just printing neoprene playmats with it on your own. And basically, the reason this bothers me so much is that these artists who are doing artwork for the game, and I know people have their own opinions about the quality of it. It's generally, in my opinion, very good artwork. Yeah. And they're putting their heart and soul and they're making this artwork, and they're negotiating with FFG a price, a value for their effort for commercial work. And they're getting that. And then FFG is able to do what they want with it. And the people who just snag the art online, blow it up, apply an AI algorithm if they need to enhance it, make it look a little nicer, because they certainly don't have 300 DPI versions of the artwork.
Right.
And then just have a printer print the heat pressed like polyester neoprene playmats, and then sell them to make a quick, $5, $10, $15 per playmat off of somebody else's work that they already negotiated how to get value for their work. That it feels so scummy to me. I hate that so much. If you don't own the artwork, you should not be profiting off of someone else's effort that way. And I would just recommend people, when you're going to Etsy and you're trying to pick up these cool, like, I know there's like cool playmat artwork that is only available. Like, you want the finalizer art. It was only at Gen Con last year or whatever. I know that's like not fun, but like it doesn't mean that you should kind of, scum the value off of someone by selling it yourself or whatever, when it was not your art to begin with, that you have the right to do that with. Jason, am I going crazy here?
No, and it's unfortunate that these kind of things happen, because there's so many cool custom things that people do with with the tokens and everything else. I think it kind of takes away when I see somebody who's like for example, I would love the finalizer playmat. I think it's one of the coolest playmats they've done. But I'm also understanding of the means to get that are outside my means, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go spend XYZ to get it printed. That's taking away from the artist work. And on a personal, I don't respect that. I don't have, that doesn't have a place for me.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't like attacking or anything like that. However, I'd be remiss to say these mats and things are made for a reason. Go out and earn yourself one, or source yourself one in the secondary market. There's a robust secondary market for this game. I won't tell people how to enjoy and consume media, but I will say that I just don't. That's not for me. I don't support it.
I just think that I don't support that. And so I think when people support, I think a lot of people think, oh, it's like a victimless crime or something. But when you're supporting those Etsy sellers doing that, you're sort of just enabling it to continue. And that's devaluing a lot of the aspects of the art of the game, as well as those like promotional items. And that's hurting the company as well, because like they're trying to make these things that people want to travel to events to acquire. And when it just goes, well, I'll just pay $25 to someone on Etsy and have them print it.
Yeah.
That's taking away their ability to entice players to come play in these events and hunt after these exclusive things and grow the game by supporting the events in that way. So I did see a few playmats at Denver. Like that was not not an official FFG merchandise, but that is the artwork of like Overwhelming Barrage or something. And it's like, come on, guys, that's not cool.
It is. Yeah, I got to agree with you. And again, there's a lot of cool media for this game that is accessible to people. Some of it, not so much. I get it. I understand your frustrations. However, I still don't think it's okay to just kind of get a honestly not so great looking version of it yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that said, some of the FFG mats just have like participant all the way across.
That's another bit of a thing, like in giant like font that takes up half the thing. Trust me, like
I get that.
There's peaks and valleys. There are peaks and valleys.
Yeah. And, I just don't think I don't think that's the way to fight back.
Right.
You know,
absolutely
I don't like
agree
that.
with you. But yeah, so yeah, there was a lot of custom stuff. And again, so many cool ideas and stuff like that. Just understand that you do need to follow the tournament guidelines set forth by Fantasy Flight and for Star Wars Unlimited. So make sure, like, a lot of people know mechanically how to play the game, but do you know, like, what you need to bring to a tournament, what to have at a tournament, and how these tournaments go? I would say in that room I would say almost a third of that room probably had no idea. A lot of this is their first event or their first competitive card game. Like at your local event, obviously I use whatever dice are in my bag. I don't
Right.
I don't know. I'm going to use what I have on me. And if they think I'm cheating, well, that's for them to figure out.
I think you're cheating.
Well, that's not very
How else
nice.
would you get wins, Jason?
That is also true. But yeah, a lot of custom stuff. It was really cool. But yeah, the first thing and probably one of the major things we'll look out for were the sleeves and just making sure people were above board on that. I would say by about the end of round 2, we had that all figured out. Everybody was sleeved up and changed over. Everything was good. And then, we were just kind of walking the tables, checking out rulings. And it was kind of unique how they had us do rulings for this event, which was pretty cool. And I think it also is attributed to the large amount of staff. That if we were asked to answer a ruling, that a second judge, like if you call a judge, you raise your hand, you say judge as loud as you can, and Dan walked over and I would go follow behind Dan and then listen to what the question was. Dan would give the ruling, and then if we would confirm with each other that's correct.
I loved that system.
Yeah,
actually.
It was great.
I thought that was a great way because, again, it is a new judging system, where there's a whole bunch of, like I said, people who was like their first time judging with Star City, first time judging a major event, first time judging a major Star Wars event. And that actually, whenever I had to go answer a ruling or something, that made me feel really comfortable because I had a backup there as well. And if I was going to answer something and just be like, maybe I misword something, or maybe I do just forget and I say the wrong thing. There's someone there who can like kind of catch me and go, oh, well, actually, hang on. That's let me talk with my friend here, pause the game. And then we talk about it, and then we can come back and just deal with it and make sure the correct ruling is given every time. And it also was just helping everyone like learn from the other judges who maybe were there, because there were people of a variety of experience levels as well, just judging in general. And I think that just helped everybody feel a little more comfortable and grow. And, I think that'll overall, if they keep doing that at the other sectors, the regional, that'll help everybody feel really confident and just become better judges in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the number one thing I was going to say, really helped my confidence, because leading up to the event, while I was pretty confident about a lot of the gameplay stuff, the one thing that was still tripping me up for a while up until almost right before the event is the new penalty guidelines and points and how they scale, and making sure we recorded those correctly. If you are unaware for the, again, about tournament policy, Star Wars Unlimited operates on 10 points. 10 penalty points until you are.
Your goal is to get as close to 10 as possible.
Yeah, you want to get to 9 and just ride that high the rest of the event.
That's not the goal, by the way. Do not do that.
Don't do that. No, you want to. But each penalty and thing that would have an infraction has a value from 0-point warnings to obviously much higher things. That's also in the tournament guide. Which again, if you have an interest in playing in these higher level events, it's good to just even have a baseline knowledge. You don't need to know what each penalty does, but have a rough idea, just so that when you have these infractions, you aren't surprised. They range from simple things like missequencing or like misresourcing, like resourcing before or in the wrong order in the regroup phase, stuff like that, or to blatant cheating and things like that, which is obviously really more extreme. It's really good to know what you can get away with. Just know exactly like what these things are. So when you are approached with these things and you have, let's say they have an at your planetary qualifier that you might be going to, you're not surprised. You aren't like, you're not like, oh man, I didn't know that this would get me there. It's good to kind of have an idea of these things. And that was the thing I'll say that, like, I know there was at least one player who was a higher caliber player, a player who actually made day 2. I think they top 8'd as well. Who I had to do. It was a very innocuous thing that happened. I had to give a single point warning to them.
And when I said that is going to, I explained to them the whole thing. Here's the infraction is going to be 1 point. And they had no idea what that meant. And I think they panicked. They looked a little panicked from that as well. And that was actually on me. We were having a bit of a time issue and I didn't want to take up more of their time and delay things. And I never got a chance to go back and like sit down and ask them, like I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you understood. I would love to have a chance to explain the thing in detail to you. But that's the kind of thing where, especially in the heat of the moment of a call where something's happened, like you realize you screwed something up, the judge came over trying to fix it, you get nervous, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. Am I in trouble? It's really, really comforting to have at least that baseline understanding, right? Yeah. Of like there are 10 points. This is worth 1. If you accumulate 10, it's bad. That's really bad. But here's how, you've got this much leeway still before anything really bad happens. So don't worry. I definitely recommend, I agree, people go and check out the master event guide and the tournament policy document and just have an idea of kind of what's going on.
Just a rough guideline so that if you are in those situations, again, you don't get really thrown off, because I did give one a penalty that was infraction for drawing extra cards. Yeah. And it's a 2-point penalty. And I thought I told them they lost a loved one. And I was like, I stopped. I actually didn't leave the table. I was like, let me explain. And I explained it to him. And I said, it's all good. Just be careful, be mindful. Whether malicious or not, I still have to assign these penalty points. And they walked up to me later and thanked me for talking about it, just so they had an idea. And it probably took another minute on the call, which I think was probably more important to not have this player like tilting out the rest of their game.
Right.
For something that was really just it was definitely an honest mistake, without going into too many details. But these are the kind of things that will happen at these events. So just again, be aware. You don't need to know I don't need you to know the document. So when your opponent does something like, judge, that's a major no, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Your job is not to judge the event. Your job is just
if a mistake happens, let the judge staff know so they could swoop in and take care of it. But it was, like I said, a lot of the early rounds were really smooth, really kind of nothing crazy judge call wise for me. Actually, over the course of the whole event, the craziest ruling I had, like I told you, was a blue leader. When is it a ground unit when it's in the ground arena? And I was like, well, yes, but I got into a player did not agree with that. So we kind of had to say, okay, well, let's actually, this one was great because we actually have FFG on record saying, yeah, it is. It's no longer, a space unit or what have you. That was the hardest part of my weekend. Dan, did you have anything that tripped you up or tripped a player up pretty bad? And again, this is we're being somewhat vague because again, we don't want to name players' names or anything like that. We don't want anyone to watch this and feel targeted, but it's important to talk about these things to an extent.
The funny thing about the one that my probably the most involved call that I had was it actually was on stream. So I actually can talk about the names and everything.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
This is all public information.
Yeah.
But I was the stream judge during the round when Steven from KTOD was playing against. He was playing Luke Data Vault,
right?
And he was playing against. Was it a Django deck? I'm actually forgetting now. It was something. It's not actually important what the opponent was at that point. But this was round. Oh God. Memory already fuzzy, 6-ish, maybe around there, 5 or 6. I feel like
I was on stream in round 7.
6 or 7. 6.
So okay. I was on there at 7.
It was probably 6. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, they had a round where their game 2 took 30 minutes. The round ended up going to time. It was pretty wild. But part of that too was we had to intervene at one point because the stream chat had caught that there was a trigger that wasn't missed, but was incorrectly resolved. And this became kind of like a question behind the scenes, okay, well, we need to intervene, but the question is, what do you do? Because we have all these policies about what happens when a trigger is missed.
Yeah.
Right. It's you can resolve it right now. You can roll back and resolve it, or you can miss it. Sometimes it can be up to the opponent, depending on how much time has passed or whatever. In this case, the trigger was resolved, but it wasn't completed, right? It was not and the trigger was a Kanan trigger. Kanan had his on attack mill cards from the opponent equal to the number of specters you have in play. And the player playing Kanan had missed that the Sabine's Masterpiece is a specter.
Right.
It's a new ship from Jump to Lightspeed. That does in fact have the Spectre tag, but it's not one of like the usual suspects. You build a Hera deck, right? And you're like, I know my Kanan's going to be able to hit 3-4 cards. It's going to be so good. You build a Luke deck and you just play Kanan because he's good, and you play
he's got good stat line value, yeah.
And you play Sabine's Masterpiece because it's just it's the same thing. It's just good value, and you don't always notice, especially in the heat of a long grind of a game, that I actually, the way it sequences, I had 2 specters in play. So when he attacked with Kanan, he only milled 1. And then the stream caught that we needed to do the second one. So I grabbed the team lead. His name's Jeho, by the way. He's incredible. I loved my team lead. I loved working with him. He was so communicative. He seemed so caring, had so many good questions for everyone, provided such good information. So shout out to Jeho. It was just an incredible experience being on that team. I grabbed him and I was like, well, here's the situation. I think that we probably need to finish resolving this because it can have an impact on the game. It was not a miss trigger. It was just an incomplete one. But here's the thing. Since then, I know it was Django now, because I remember since then a triple dark raid was played that looked at the top 7 and then found another thing. And so like the top of the deck was all screwy also. Plus they went to a regroup phase and drew 2 as well. And then he said, okay, let's go take this 1 tier higher. And we went and found a red shirted judge and then had to discuss it with them. So this call took a while. It took a few minutes to figure out, and then we talked to them, and then all the judges talked over and decided we're just going to go in and we're just going to finish resolving it right now because it may be impactful, but it's not necessarily going to be like overly impactful for either side. It's got the sort of the mill and the heal aspect, and it's not clear that like by resolving this late there was any particular extra advantage for anyone, and so we just did it. And they milled 1, and it actually, I think it didn't even change the heal math because I think it was the same aspects as the card that was milled previously. So that was the end of it. It ended up being really, really innocuous. We just milled 1 extra from the top of their deck a little late. But it's funny how much like had to go into figuring out whether or not we resolve this now and what the potential ramifications are. And that's a lot of the stuff that behind the scenes, if you're just a player, you don't necessarily realize that the judges are considering and thinking and trying to figure out how to make sure we resolve this in a way that's not giving any extra advantage to any particular player.
Yeah. And it's what's intriguing about that call is just the sheer length of time.
Yeah.
Because I remember you talking about it, I was like, dang, that's a really long time. And then making sure we always give the right extension.
Yep.
It's a very big deal because of the length of time. And then players sometimes think that they need more time. But we had very clear guidelines, and it's for all judges. It's like
it. Yeah, that in that scenario too, we checked the time when we started the call and when we finished it. So we were
instructed to start the time too or note the time when we start a call.
Yep. Yeah. And we gave the precise time extension. It was just unfortunate that because that game had that game 2 in particular had gone on so deep, it was one of those games where blue-green control is just like grinding and just trying to turn the corner. But because of the way that Django deck operates, it doesn't ever let you fully round the bend. And ended up closing it. I believe it was I think Luke won game 1, Django won game 2 after a really long time. And so that game 3, even though we gave the time extension, it felt like there was very little time, and it was a little frustrating, a little anticlimactic at the end because they ended up drawing. But that's just how it goes sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, and to say that stream on, I watched back a lot of stuff, and the stream was very vigilant on catching things.
Yeah.
I will say, however, just as a word of advice, if you're not sure about how something works, don't start that people are doing the wrong thing. If you've been in any of these streams, it kind of turns into like a hive mind of opinion. And it happened in the round I was judging where everyone was thinking a mistrigger occurred where it didn't, and didn't intervene to the point that your team lead came over to check on it while I was judging. I'm like, yeah, it was a first stormtrooper or whatever had died. And they were saying that Django couldn't exhaust the unit. And I'm just like, and I didn't flinch like when it happened, because of course Django couldn't exhaust the unit. The damage came from a unit, because the damage came from a unit. We know that. But it became a Chicken Little Sky is Falling scenario. And watching it back too, I was kind of like, wow. But at the same time, again, I always appreciate the vigilance of the stream chats in general. I think it's a nice layer to the game to keep everybody honest and on the up and up. However, just make sure, and we don't have to worry anymore because Django's gone, so who cares?
Doesn't matter anymore.
But it was funny because the one screenshot I have of me is on my phone where I'm getting blown up for missing something that I didn't miss. And I had to be like, I had to check it because like I was responsible for that game. And I'm like, right. Nothing has happened. And it was a very uneventful game where Sabine beat Django. But anyway, a kind of a sidebar. But yeah, most of our rulings were pretty procedural. Like, I don't know about you. It was all procedural based things.
I was like, I almost exclusively just answered innocuous questions all day. Yes. But how does this work? You know, like, oh, here.
Yeah, it wasn't really anything where a game state was foobar or someone had really made a mistake, at least where I was.
Yeah, there were a few judges I talked to that did have some more.
And I do know the deck check team had their hand very full.
The deck check team was busy.
Was very busy. A word of advice to any player, I just wouldn't use foils.
seriously though,
it was a bit of a mess in that regard. Not that the judges were doing the wrong thing. That's not what I'm saying. But if you are watching on YouTube right now, Dan is holding a Pringle.
Yep. I have a couple of chips here.
Yep. And if all of your cards don't look like that, your deck is not uniform. You have marked cards, whether you realize it or not. And I would say most of these judge calls for that, they had no idea that was a thing or didn't realize that it would be considered marked cards. That is another thing you need to be cognizant of, is your card condition. And unfortunately with foils, I know it all too well down in Florida. That's why I literally do not use foils because of the humidity down here, and just in general, sometimes with card quality and card stock used. Not to say Star Wars has bad card stock, I don't think it does, but I do think the foils lend to a bit of curling. So just be careful and be aware of those kind of things. Again, these are things you just need to do as you prepare to go to a tournament, because you never know when you're going to be the one where they find that on, and then you have to be able to procure extra copies, or depending in the moment, proxied, judge issued proxies, etc. And then you don't want to have that on you. So just things to keep in mind. But yeah, most of the stuff, like I said, was all very procedural. I had a lot of people ask when the lunch break was. Oh, surprise. There wasn't.
There isn't one.
And I also don't think there should be one for a large scale event.
Okay. That's a hot take.
What a brave hot take that is. Because again, it was 9 rounds. It was a very long day. It was a very long day, even though for us it didn't feel like a long day. It was a long day for a lot of players. So part of that tournament guideline, it looks like the sectors and probably your PQs may vary, but I would imagine if you're going to Virginia, I would expect the same thing, that the next sector that there will not be a lunch break. So just bring a protein bar. Go hit concessions. Have yourself a snack.
Do bring food and drink.
Play an aggro deck. Win your game in 10 minutes or lose. Who cares? Figure it out. Go. But yeah, that was the whole floor judging experience for me. Again, we didn't have any crazy rulings, but it kind of segues into what the thing we're going to include in our stuff, and then we'll kind of cap off the day. Since Galactic Ambition has shifted a bit to kind of a more of a judge centric kind of ruling-esque kind of, discussion think tank kind of thing. We wanted to bring, a rulings up, and I didn't have anything particularly spicy from Denver, and neither really did Dan, but we did have a question get asked. I'm going to shoot to Dan. He's going to go ahead and give an answer.
Before you jump in, I just want to set the stage for this.
Oh yeah. Set the stage,
because this is a new segment. This isn't I don't want to just make people think that this is something that's a one-off thing.
Oh, I thought I said that.
Well, you didn't say the name of the segment, though.
It has a name?
It has a name. Well, okay. So I think in a future video, in a future podcast, I just don't have it ready yet. I think we're going to have a little interlude here, a little
there we go.
That's, cool. I think I want to have a little animation of like a Star Wars character calling for Judge.
Oh yeah.
So you can imagine that. Imagine it's like Jabba the Hutt and he goes, Michi no Chukochi or something, and that means judge in Huttese.
I wouldn't know what that is.
That's anyway, it's this is our new segment. It's called Judge Call. And we're just going to answer a rules question that we have seen somewhere in the world, whether that be in person, on a like the Facebook community, Discord, personal Discord, whatever. So today's Judge Call question comes from one of my locals who asked this question in our Discord. I thought this is a great little question that I think a lot of people haven't thought of or have come across, but like, I don't know how that works. So go ahead, Jason. Now
all right. Yeah. Geez. All right. Very good. All right. So if my opponent plays Poe as an upgrade, that's the new pilot, Poe, from Jump to Lightspeed, the leader, onto a vehicle unit that costs less than 3, am I able to effectively steal Poe with the Traitorous upgrade, since when he's attached, he's considered an upgrade and the vehicle is not considered a leader unit? Take it away.
Yeah, this is a question. There are a lot of questions about Poe, Leader Poe, because this card's text is weird. It's super, super strange. Because Leader Poe is the one pilot that doesn't confer leadership onto the unit that he's attached to, which means that all these carefully worded effects in the game that are like gain control of target unit or something, they also say target non-leader unit most of the time. But in this case, you definitely can steal a ship with Traitorous that, as long as it's got 3 costs or less, that has a Poe leader attached to it. But the question, of course, is what happens to Poe? Am I stealing your leader? And the answer is that no. The important thing to realize is that an upgrade attached to something is not inherently, I think I've had a lot of questions too about like, does that add those traits from that upgrade to that ship or whatever? No, it's not part of the thing you're stealing. It is actually still a separate card in play, controlled by the player, not the player who owns, or sorry, not owns, was wrong, not the player who controls the ship that the pilot is attached to. So in this case, when you Traitorous that ship is now a ship owned by your opponent, presumably, unless a really weird scenario is happening. Controlled now by you, that has 2 upgrades on it. One is Traitorous, also controlled by you, and in that case, owned by you. And then a leader Poe, which is still attached to the ship you control, but controlled by the opponent, because the control of the upgrade never passed to you. You only controlled the unit on it. Same thing if you had a dorsal turret or something, some random upgrade on that ship, that would also still be controlled by the opponent. That, however, in that case, then those upgrades most of the time give an effect to the unit rather than having an effect on their own. So the controller of the unit would also have those effects if it's granting it to it, despite the control of the upgrade being the opponent. So no, if you Traitorous your opponent's Poe attached ship, you do not now have their leader and can do whatever you want with it and have access their aspects. That's not how that works. They still have the leader. They still have control of that Poe. They can still use that Poe's ability.
Yeah. And that's a big thing to understand. You don't get to use that. But if you took it, you don't get to use the Poe's ability. Right. That's the thing that people need to understand. There's a big difference between ownership and controlling in this game that people are slowly starting to learn with pilots. As with pilots and as more card effects come out. And that's really the big difference is trying to get at the end there as well, because like an upgrade like dorsal turret will just give an effect to the unit. Yeah. And you have that effect is what you'll use when it attacks because it's on the unit you control. But Poe's activated ability is not on the ship, it's on the Poe. And as long as your opponent still controls that Poe, and by the way, there are some niche ways to like what you would potentially gain control of your opponent's leader, but the rules has an exception for that says if your opponent would ever gain control of your leader, it just gets defeated. Yeah. So this question, along with Chewbacca questions, have been the two things I've seen pop up. If I the no glory whatever results thing, and I take your results, thing, yeah, and I take your thing with Chewbacca on it, well, yeah, it gets defeated because I'm controlling the unit. They're no longer controlling the unit, so I just get the unit out and Chewbacca guys. The amount of times I've seen that asked in Discords and local Discord, it happened the first week. It happens in the judge Discord, that and then Poe questions, because again, pilots have. While now I think are going to make more of an impact in the metagame, not so much before, but now I think there's room for pilots to breathe. They have been quite the rules discussion point, which has been a lot of fun to kind of dig into. So yeah, that's our judge call for this week. It was really exciting for Dan to come up with that. So good job, Dan.
Thank you. And yes, every episode will have a new judge call. It'll hopefully be a more niche, more interesting ruling that you will, I don't know, maybe you'll get something out of it.
Yeah. And if you have a question, you could always drop it in the comments too. We could answer it, but we could also talk about it in the future too if we want. You know, if you have questions,
if it's a good one,
if it's good, or if it's a bad one and we want to shame you,
that's probably I don't think we're gonna do that.
All right, we won't do it if it's a bad one. Nope, there are no bad questions. It's only a bad question if you don't ask. It won't be good for content if we choose not to talk about it. But yeah, overall, event was really good. So as far as our day, we judged through the middle of round 8, where we had our judge meeting, and we were only on staff for one day. The judge meeting at the end was really nice to kind of do a quick little recap of things we saw, wrinkles going on, stuff like that. Kind of like a little bit of a hive mind. Again, nothing really crazy came up in that, where the head judges shared their insights and things that they saw and dealt with. And again, a lot of it was obviously situations were not named or in rounds or anything like that, because again, there are people playing this game and there's confidentiality and there's sensitive subjects on specific issues. You don't want rumors to go around and stuff like that. But overall, it was a really nice little recap. And then we went and got our stuff, which was my favorite part outside of the experience. So at the end, we were instructed to go up and, get paid out because we're done. It was cool. So Dan went first and got some stuff, and I'm waiting and I'm talking to the Star City folks, and they were asking for our input, which was like a little mini exit interview, which was great, by the way. What do you think of the event? What went well? Stuff like that, which was awesome. And took the time to talk to each and every single one of us. And then here comes Dan giggling behind me. Like, kind of like that. Yeah, kind of like that. And I'm just like trying to talk like, Dan. And he's like, we got to. I'm like, don't show me what we got until I see it myself. I don't want to know. Well, I'm talking. And we got our stuff, which was cool. So for those who don't know what judges received, we received the sweet participant playmat because we participated in the event, just not in the same way as others did. And it says so on the playmat.
We participated because it says it.
It says it on like 60% of the playmat.
The playmat wouldn't lie.
The playmat would not lie, nor would I. But the playmat is cool. Like, I like it. And we got the awesome VIP playmat, which I really liked.
The Scramble Fighters
mat was dope.
It's nice.
Which if you're attending my locals next week, I'm giving it away. So that's going to be really cool. Yeah, I'm actually giving everything I got away except the judge promos. I'm giving everything away at my locals.
You gave away your paycheck too?
I gave that to my landlord.
Oh, that's
and the light company.
Congratulations.
Yeah. We also got paid. We got one of each entry promo, which was really nice. I've been giving those out. They're really cool. Red 3. I didn't know that, what's it called? That was one of the cards, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't paying attention, because that's what I do. It's not paying attention. We got aspect pins, which are really cool. I gifted my aspect pins I got at Gen Con as a Christmas gift to someone. So it was nice to get them again, who just wanted them more than me. They kept commenting on them on my lanyard, and I was like, well, you can have them. And then we got our judge promos, which are really cool. The first time these were handed out. So Dan's going to put them on the screen.
I'm actually just holding them up.
Yeah, they're being held up. It is the Obi-Wan entry promo and the Kylo Ren Day 2 promo, but with a judge stamp, which was a really cool surprise. I was actually shocked that we got those.
I don't usually see judges or staff getting the cut
The cut promo. Yeah. Normally you get, and it's the same thing for the other games. You usually get all the day one stuff and then maybe to a specific cut point. Like for Final Fantasy, we get up to the top 16 and then tops 8, 4, and 2. We don't get those promos, but we do get those and they're not judge stamped. They're just that. It was nice to get them and nice that they're judge treatment and the foiling. If you haven't gotten a hold of one of these yet, just in general, these are so raised nice. Foiling is so nice.
They look so cool.
Really cool. It does raise a question if those are the only 3 in my deck, or do I have marked cards in my deck, which is now another issue, which my answer is no. I would say personally, I would just double sleeve everything if I wanted to use those. Yeah. We haven't gotten an official answer on that, but it was mentioned that could they be considered marked because they're raised and the other cards are not. I don't personally see how those, but it does change the if you really want to get in the brass tacks, it does change the consistency of your sleeves and like thickness of your sleeves. If you really want to get into that, that is a bridge that we have not crossed yet as an organized play, like in general, or has really been discussed.
I mean, this would also apply to prestige,
right?
But serialized prestige ones specifically.
Right. But I think too, this is the first time where they're going to be out in a mass capacity versus the serialized.
I was running one on Sunday. I played on Sunday, by the way. I actually played.
Yeah, you played on Sunday. I traveled the town. I was a tourist. It was fun. I was on the train. I rode a train for the first time.
Wow, I'm proud of you.
It was really cool. Yeah, I did a lot for the first time. Like snow. Never seen snow. 4 years on this planet. I know, right? That's so but yeah, we got a set of those promos. It was really nice. A nice capstone the weekend. We got a sweet tote bag, which mine got mangled at the airport, by the way. I didn't tell you that. It got like the flap got stuck in the conveyor belt through TSA.
Oh no.
It just got like pulled, but nothing was in it. And I'm just like, all right, well, that's just not making it back. Yeah, because they screened my bag on the way back because all the pins and stuff. But yeah, it was a really great weekend. The event ran really well. I'm really excited to judge more stuff. I know Dan shares that same sentiment.
Yeah. I'm so sad that I can't judge the regional. I wanted
me too.
I wanted so bad. I'm not going to be available. I'm not going to be at the regional at any capacity, and it kills me because
I would love to.
Yeah,
I would love to, but we're going to be judging other stuff.
Yes,
really soon. In fact, you're going to be in Minneapolis.
You're going to be in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I'll be there.
We'll see each other again. It's like 2 weeks from now.
It's like 2 weeks. Yeah, we'll be in Minneapolis. And then we're going to be judging more events in the future. Obviously, waves for the Galactic Championship have went out. I know that I will be there and I will be on judging, as I know that several people have now come out to say they're judging. I'll be there. I know that we will be there at Maindeck in some sort of capacity, whether it's judging, doing whatever else there. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah.
Really, really bummed out I won't be at the next sector. Like that's really tough because it was so fun. I was so nervous.
Yeah, like you were pretty nervous.
I was really nervous. Like I was reading the comp guide because again, it was like the first event like on of this magnitude in the US where it like had the ties to Worlds. So I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't the reason I ruined somebody's event. Like I am very hard on myself in that regard in general as a person. So for me, like it was like, oh my God, what if I do this wrong and I ruin someone's experience? I personally would never want to do that to somebody. I just have that kind of personality. But I think I just overthought it. And by the second round, it was just kind of like, okay, what was I thinking?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it was good.
But I also think like it's warranted to kind of be, to be vigilant and be a little nervous. And it's because, it shows that there's a level of care and respect to the event. Because a lot of people, this is their first event. And a lot of the judges I was talking, when I said that, they shared the same thing with me. They're like, yeah, it's a little nerve wracking, but we all got through it, made it on the other side, bronchitis and whatever the heck else be dang. And I'm really excited for the next event. So yeah, that was our Denver experience. Overall, it was really good.
I want to mention just this one piece of it's delayed and not even very useful criticism anymore because everybody knows about it, including SCG and everyone running it. But one of the big pieces of kind of drama or something out of the event was the prize wall ticket economy.
Oh man, the prize
we
wall.
Do have to mention that.
I guess we should mention it very quickly.
Very quickly. Because we're towards the end of the podcast here, but I do want to just mention that I think everybody was in agreement there that we would love to see the tickets being more abundant or the prices being drastically lower. I would say a little combination of both, but I know that SCG knew about that because on day 2, they slashed the prices of playmats and t-shirts and made it so a lot of people in day 2 actually could afford to go and pick them up. I know they're doing a couple things with the way they were pricing things. They were trying to protect the value of those sector exclusive items, which is really cool. They were also trying to make the side events enticing, because if there are valuable things to be able to get, it helps people play in them. And I know playing in the side events is actually the way that they're able to sort of recoup the massive costs that go into running an event like this. So it's all really important. And I think everyone's aware. And I, again, this is season 0, right? The big thing is that there's a lot of things just being tried and explored and learning from. And if not in this round of maybe we'll see in the last couple of sectors, maybe we'll see some differences. Otherwise, in season 1, I would be shocked if there wasn't an adjustment to how the economy works in general for the prize. Well, if not by Galactics. In fact, actually, I really hope by Galactics.
I'm almost certain by Galactics, but I think there will be I'm sure there'll be a noticeable change by even the next sector for sure. Because man, the feedback on that was dismal day 1 to the point where I literally changed my plans day 2. Cause like day 2, I was like, I'm going to go back and do sealed events. I flew back earlier because once I realized it wasn't needed on Sunday, I moved my flight up like the day they sent that. I was like, okay, well, I'll just get back so I can get back to work. And
how'd that go?
Yeah, it went great. I missed like 2 days just dying. So I instead went to be a tourist, and then I'm eating lunch and I go on Twitter and I saw that all the prices got knocked down. I was like, oh no, I would have definitely tried, because I really wanted that Close the Gates play mat. Sweet.
Yeah.
It looked really good, but it was good that there was feedback. It was taken and it's changed. I'm hoping for the next sector experience, it'll be even better for everybody. So yeah,
I'm sure it will.
And yeah, especially because the meta is probably going to be way more fun. But anyway, thank you everybody for listening to our regional experience, our sector experience. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Again, right around the corner's next event for everybody attending the next sector qualifier. Good luck. Maybe take some of our advice with your materials and what you bring, and maybe do a little homework in the tournament guide just so you're prepared. And a little extra preparedness will go a long way. It'll help your tournament confidence, I promise you. But yeah, I think that's it. I think we did it. That's it. It's all over. Thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you for listening to Galactic Ambition, part of the Maindeck podcast family. For Dan, I'm Jason, and we're going to go now. It's over.
We're going to go.
Bye. We're going to go. Bye. Have a good one. See you next time. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.